Just when it comes to the debt, Andrew Griffith, I mean, you've said that Labour shouldn't be doing it this way. They haven't had enough scrutiny. There hasn't been enough conversation. I mean, you were part of Kwasi Kwarteng and Liz Truss's Treasury team when you did a mini budget without even talking to the OBR, the independent financial number crunchers, about it. You rammed it through and created complete chaos in the financial markets. So some of our viewers might think it's a bit rich for you trying to say Rachel Reeves doesn't have the right to do this.
Well, I was the minister that cleared up the LDI mess, which was a failure by many people in the system.
Treasury team.
I was the minister that cleared up the LDI mess after that budget, which clearly mistakes were made. Actually, if you look at what was happening there, there was a desire to try and protect people from the rising cost of energy and to reduce tax on workers and people who are creating wealth. Now, what we had last week was the government seeking to deliberately break or change the fiscal rules. No consultation with the OBR around that, Laura, and have broken their promise on energy. They never asked the OBR to look at things like the winter fuel allowance. That was a fiscal event, the first fiscal event they came up with, and they never asked the OBR to do that.
You didn't ask the OBR to look at £45 billion of unfunded tax cuts, which caused chaos in the markets. It led to the Prime Minister of the time, Liz Truss, being marched from office barely 40 days after moving in. So do you really think that the Conservatives are going to make much hay with trying to say that Labour ought not to do this because they haven't looked at it properly? They've got the backing of the IMF. They've had distinguished economists like Andy Haldane talking about this for months and months and months.
Well, they will have received the same advice that every Chancellor and Treasury Minister receives from the Treasury, which is that if you increase the level of public borrowing, and as a government, every working day we're in the markets raising £1 billion of gilts. We exist, as it were, by the kindness of strangers who buy those. We will have, and this is what the Treasury analysis has always shown, higher interest rates for longer. That has a cost. Also, the cost that the government pays on that debt has a cost. We spend around £100 billion each year on debt. That's twice the defence budget. That is bigger than Bridget Phillipson's education budget, after they try and spend more.
But
so this is a real cost on people.
And the debt of the country is indeed absolutely enormous. But that was built up over more than 10 years of the Conservatives being in charge.
No, it's been built up over a generation, actually, Laura. The last year in which a British government balanced its books, and I'm not saying a government should balance its books every year because the economy goes up and down, but the last time a government presented a budget that would balance in year was in 2001 and 2000.
And the problem has been building for a long time, but the Conservatives were in power for a long time, during which the debt went up for all sorts of reasons. Some of it was emergency spending during the pandemic, and some of it was because of the energy shock which came about from the war in Ukraine.